Welcome to Voting in Action's BlogTV for the week. It is September 19th, and it's just me and Dax.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. But, you know, these kind of conversations tend to pick up more viewers and more people who want to participate. This week, just on Monday, I was on the Amateur Skeptics Show, their podcast, and I'm liking the way that they do things. They have a Google Doc that they pass around, and they only allow people access to it if they're part of the show, and everyone's able to modify it even during the show. So if they say something and they want to put that link in, the podcast goes out and it goes with that document. So all the links that they talk about go out with the podcast so that people can have an easy time researching everything that they're saying.
Right. That kind of what I do with the Founder's Footsteps. We have kind of the same thing, but we really should start posting links with it because we mention them a lot and we just never get around to it.
Good deal. So today I'm looking at a video called Innocence of Muslims that I mirrored on YouTube. And I put it on a channel that I was, okay with that channel being flagged if that video were to be taken down as hate speech, right? And this video is being linked to 26 deaths in the Middle East, It's supposedly the cause of riots and protests, which I disagree with. I think it's probably the fact that we killed the number 2 Al-Qaeda man in Egypt more than the film itself. And I'm looking at the 34,000 views that I got on this video, right? YouTube has decided unilaterally that they will not take down that movie as hate speech. Right?
As they shouldn't. I mean, I'm sorry, I have to... Who actually believes this? Who actually believes this video is responsible for what's going on over there? I mean, it happened on September 11th. They had there were many with matching banners. Who really, honest to God, believes this? I want a show of hands. If you raise your hand, jump off the bridge. Just do humanity a favor and do it.
Okay, I'm not jumping off a bridge here. I really don't think that it had anything to do with this movie because I have a certain confidence in the Muslim world that they are not all 5th graders. And when I watched this movie, Innocence of Muslims, I'm like, the only way that would piss me off to the point of, violent revolt, no matter how much I believed in Islam, I would have to be a 5th grader. Because that's basically like saying, yeah, your mother's got a big butt. It's a horrible fucking movie. And, videos on my own YouTube channel or 100 other YouTube channels that I can think of, Pat Condell in particular, if they were translated into Arabic for them to be able to understand, they would have a much worse effect. They would start World War III and IV if they were ever to be put on those in those countries. If this stupid movie can cause this much damage, imagine what a Pat Condell video translated would do. And nobody's trying to cause any wars. I don't think that even the person who made this film was trying to instigate a war or, the U.S. Embassy to be stormed and people to be shot to death. But, here in the Western world, we value freedom of speech, and I think that our freedom is, in that cliche way, exactly what they hate about us now.
I'll get back to that in a hold on. I have to say this. I've seen the video. I've seen how haven't seen the hour-long video.
Uh-huh.
No, it's not even that kind of, oh my god, that's offensive, stupid. That's kind of like, you got a pothead sitting there going, what? What? I mean, it's just, dude, what stupid? Like, what did I just watch? Stupid.
Absolutely. It's one of the crappiest made YouTube videos, even that I've ever seen, and I would hope that most people in the Arab world would see it for what it is, a very crappy film, and not take it as seriously as they apparently are being said to have taken it, because I would. If it was the film, I really do think that all of those people who rioted are fifth graders. They have a fifth grade mentality, and they need more education. That's it. That's what's going to prevent this in the future, is blanket education. For that, just educate them in anything, because to be taunted into such a huge protest over that,
Do you actually believe that the video was what caused the protest?
No, I don't. I think it had something to do with killing the number 2 Al-Qaeda guy, and September 11th anniversary both happening. I think it had more to do with that.
Because the thing was, I saw its original upload. It was in fact September 11th. Now, unless somehow, and I mean, right, a big somehow, that video gained the attention of one Middle Eastern person on that day, and then spread like wildfire, like absolute, everyone saw it consecutively. I don't see how this is even remotely possible.
Yeah. So, along with that, France has decided to not give permits to the protests that were supposed to happen for this film. And a lot of people are calling this a ban, but I disagree with that terminology. Not allowing a protest from the police, not allowing a permit from the police to have your protest, so that the police don't have to, ramp up with riot gear for something that explosive. I don't think that is the same as banning their speech. I think they could still do something else other than form a giant lynch mob and march around all pissed off.
Well,
I don't think they're going to get arrested for expressing themselves. It's just that the police have not given them the okay to have the protest. But it is a different kind of climate as far as freedom of speech. They seemingly don't appreciate the angered Muslims' freedom of speech as much as would happen in the U.S. Whereas we would never stop an angry group of Muslims from marching around because they're angry about something, unless they started rioting and throwing rocks and breaking windows. But until they start doing that, we would never shut down a protest march. I've seen too many protest marches that were just so spontaneous and didn't ask for a permit at all, that went through our own city. Yeah. I can't imagine that a religious group wanting to do it would be shut down, because that would be our police would be even more fear of a lawsuit about civil liberties. And apparently in France they don't care about those civil liberties as much as we do here in America. And also in France, at the same time, a cartoon went into a French weekly newspaper, kind of the equivalent of the Colorado Springs Independent. And in that cartoon, Muhammad was naked.
You don't say.
Yeah, and see, it for Muslims, depicting him at all, let alone naked, drawing him at all in any fashion, even in a good light, like a painting that you would hang over a mantle, over a fireplace, those are offensive to them. You're not supposed to draw them at all. And so, we've had Draw Muhammad Day protests in the past. And we had the Danish cartoons, which set off a riot. And it seems like these are particularly thin-skinned people. Because we can have a painting in the United States called Piss Christ, where a cross is dropped in a vat of urine, or depicted that way in a painting. And no one's, breaking the windows of storefronts. No one's rioting over that. The original painting, after like 10 years, it was attacked with a knife, by a single crazy guy. But you just don't see the thin-skinnedness of these Muslims in American Christians. American Christians take a lot of lampooning, and they never riot like this.
No. I haven't seen any kind of actual violence from American Christians in a long time, actually. I guess you could consider some of those cults who follow Satan and drink rat poison. I guess you could consider that murder or mass suicide in a way.
I can point out specific instances of violence from Christians here in America.
But is it because of Christianity?
And I would be able to tie it to their Christian beliefs, but normally it's not a group or a mob. It's normally a small group, or a single person. And in particular, I would point to abortion clinic murders. Those are normally traced back to one person who might have been part of a terrorist group, but the terrorist group itself didn't okay what the person did. The person kind of did it on their own and just got a whole bunch of, messages of hate for abortion doctors from that group, And it's really small pockets of violence. It's never, thousands of people marching in a line and then and breaking windows over this religious stuff. The last time I've seen anything like that were like the LA riots, 1992, and after that, or right around the same time, the Chicago Bulls winning the NBA championship, that started riots. But even I would say even Occupy has not gotten as destructive in that same way that these Muslim riots have been. Especially, Occupy is now a year old. We just passed 2 days ago. We passed the 1 year anniversary. How many people have died in the Occupy movement? Whereas, as of now, that Innocence of Muslims movie has been linked to the deaths of like 28 different people.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, that's what the news, the AP News is reporting right now. And that's a huge difference. A whole year of, some people got hurt. I can point to Scott Olson having the tear gas thing shot in his head, from police and all that. But, and I can also point to a protester that apparently, died in police custody up in Denver, and...
Yeah, the guy who tried to take the cop's gun? Or...
Yeah. And I believe the cop story in that instance, but there is still a little bit of doubt in my mind as to what exactly happened there and why that guy was not secured in order to he should have been locked in the back seat and handcuffs secured and everything, and that he could get to the front seat and pull a shotgun in the first place. It just boggles my mind. I would hope that they would treat especially young protesters with a little bit more professionalism when they're arresting them, and make sure that they are subdued when they're putting them in the back of the car, and don't leave it unlocked so that they can get to the front of the car. It's mind-boggling. I have more confidence in Denver PD than the official Denver PD story would elicit from someone. If they were to hear that happened, they'd be like, those policemen are inept. And I just find it hard to believe. I've seen these Denver police in their stormtrooper gear, arm in arm, marching and kicking over the Occupy picnic tables and stuff, and I just don't have this feeling that they are dumbasses. I have this feeling like they are very professional and they know what they're doing. And so, yeah, but we can say that was one person who died in custody, and he was a protester. I don't even think that we can say that was during the protest, though. He was just known for being a protester. That they say that it was a drug-related arrest at his house. So even that doesn't really count as like an Occupy death,
Yeah.
And in a week we got 28 deaths from a movie. A very piss poor movie. It's so stupid. It was painful to watch.
Yeah, I kind of had to turn the sound down because I was getting cancer. But I mean, this movie, I cannot for the life of me. I can't even delude myself into thinking this could have caused what's going on in the Middle East right now. I can't even pretend that could be a possibility. And how so many people are actually buying this.
Yeah.
My mind is gone. Like, really? I mean, how stupid does anyone really honestly have to be to believe this? It boggles my mind beyond belief, because there are people out there who, honest to God, believe this is the case. And I've spoken with them, and they will defend to the death that this is the case. I mean, I could sit there and it's like, yes, they believe it's spontaneous and it wasn't planned out. Is that why they're carrying matching banners that would have at least had to take hours to make? At least, maybe days, maybe even a week. And then you've got another protest going on simultaneously over in another country, and I think didn't they have more past that? Didn't they spread all over the Middle East?
It's in Libya and Egypt, primarily. It's right where the Arab Spring started. So this is in a place that's rife for protesting and turmoil.
But didn't it? I thought it happened. I thought something was going on with Yemen.
Yes, and not so much the larger Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Iran. Those places seem to be a little bit. They have it a little bit more under control, but also they have tighter security on their internet. And this is one reason why I was kind of concerned about YouTube not taking down these videos, because I know 2 years ago in the Draw Muhammad Day protest, which is now annual, 2 years ago, Pakistan had blocked Google and YouTube and Twitter from their internet. And it is possible for a country to do this. And they did it just long enough so that people wouldn't be offended by the picture of Muhammad being drawn.
Pictures.
Yes. in many cases, stick figures.
Okay.
Yes. So, what has me a little bit weird right now is that YouTube has taken this stance of not pulling the video at all, period. But I have 34,000 views on a separate channel, not my main channel, and growing, right?
Right.
The people who originally made this video, I imagine they still have the ability to put a DMCA on it, or put a copyright claim on it, and then put it out on their own channel and monetize it for their own ads. And they have not done so. It's almost as if the original creators of the film are taking a step back and saying whatever happens, happens. Because YouTube cannot just unilaterally declare that somebody's copyrighted material, if it's mirrored, will not be taken down for any reason. You know, they're not going to take it down when it's flagged for hate speech, but they should take it down if somebody went around DMCAing it. And how would YouTube know the exact nature of the copyright holders, you know?
Yeah,
but YouTube did make a statement saying, no, we're not going to take down the video. So I imagine they're even looking at DMCA claims and saying, this is probably a fake one. You know? Because I have 34,000 views, and normally, like, if it were a Darkfall parody, it would have been taken down by now. People tend to start with the video with the most views, the mirror with the most views on it, and they'll start with that one to flag it first.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing, because a lot of people understand that, no, this video, I mean, it's offensive beyond belief. I mean, I've seen, your video has, I'd say, 8-to-1 dislike to like ratio.
Yes.
Everyone hates this video. The one with 22,000, or with like 8 million views, it's more hated than most of the other ones out. But everyone knows it's a joke video. It's a troll, piss-poor excuse of video. I mean, they get it. Nobody really cares that much. The only people who seem to care are those who are deluding themselves into believing that it's relevant, that it has any kind of relevance or pertinence to anything at all. I mean, as far as what I can honest to God tell, the White House just gave this guy's video a big shout out. That is all they did. They can go there and say, oh, we have to take down the video because it's causing the protest. No, it's not. No, just stop talking. If you truly believe that, jump off a cliff. Just go.
Yeah, and if if the White House wants something censored, they have a way to censor it for national security. There is a form they can fill out, right? And if that happens, every one of us who has a copy of it, and I shared it with almost everyone in my Skype list, all of us become potential targets for, men in black to come in and seize our computers.
Yes,
if they really considered it like something that would start an international war, they could silence it. But that's why we mirror. That's why we keep things up in the hopes that we can thwart any kind of silencing of our freedom of speech.
Right.
And it's a completely Western thing to do, to put up something that you don't even agree with and say, I don't agree with this, but I don't agree with taking it down even more.
That's where I stand. I mean, a lot of people give me crap because I will, and I have stood by, well, I haven't stood with them, but I've stood by and said, no, you gotta let the Westboro Baptist Church spout their dogma. I know it's offensive to you, but, I mean, if you went out and said, laid down your complaints or said something offensive that I didn't like, does that really give me the right to go off and tell you to shut the fuck up and smack you if you don't? I mean, they're not really hurting anybody. They're just hurting feelings. They're trolls. Get over it.
Yeah. The last thing that I wanted to bring up, because I'm very much about freedom of speech here, and these this university in Canada, okay, it's requiring students to pay $180 for an art history textbook. But this textbook has no pictures of the art that it's talking about in it because of copyright problems. Right? $180 for a book with no pictures, and it's art history.
Okay, hold on. Now, can you please explain this to me? I don't even care about the price, because that's just grossly overpaying as it is. $180 for a textbook about art, but no pictures because of copyright. So let me get this straight. Apparently, the painters, or the creator of the art, sued schools for having their art in textbooks. Is that what
the thing is? Most of those artists have been dead for a really long time. It's an art history book.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, so how can anyone claim copyright if they're dead?
Exactly.
Who's
probably whatever parent company or family, or a lot of times families own it, like the Warhol estate and stuff like that. Probably if the artist had a say, he'd probably give it to people for free. And not even care at this point, especially when they get so famous that they're in a text, you know.
Yeah. And in Canada, they don't have the same fair use doctrine that we have in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. They just recently have something called fair dealing. Because, of course, they have funny words for everything. They're Canucks, you know. But for the purpose of education, they're allowed to do this. And it's very similar to, if you look online, there are transcriptions, like sheet music, for most any rock and roll song that you would want to play with a guitar. And in the beginning of it, if it has this blurb that says it's for educational purposes only, they can get away with sharing the sheet music to any song, because there is a specific loophole for that in copyright law, that students can share and teachers can share with students copies of sheet music and books.
I need to check up on the definition of education, because from what I understand, if you get a sheet music, aren't you trying to educate yourself how to play the song anyway? Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, that was my pathetic attempt at a joke. There you go.
Yeah, and most of these tablature files are actually written by students that are trying to transcribe the music themselves, and they're sharing them back and forth and learning about what exactly it was that the original artist was actually playing. Because sometimes they get their transcription a little bit off, and then they have discussions online about what was the actual note and where was the placement on the fretboard, you know, and where was there a pre-bend or whatnot. And this is all educational. And so the blurb that you see at the beginning of all these tab files is pretty much universal in the way that it says, this is for educational purposes only. And there's a thing called the Olga, the Online Guitar Archive, that it was originally sued and taken down by Cherry Lane Music, which is a company that puts up, they put out a lot of books on certain CDs in rock and roll, and they were able to sue and get it taken down, and the Olga started moving around to different websites, and then they finally realized that legal protection of adding that blurb to the beginning of everything so that it couldn't get sued down.
Screw that. Alright. Sorry, dude.
My sister actually had a question for me this week about almost exactly this stuff. She's been transcribing old silent movie soundtracks, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And she takes them from YouTube videos or wherever she can find Vimeo, all kinds of places, and then uses her piano and actually writes out notes on sheet music. Because she was asking me if that's like a care, and I told her that it's probably so old that it won't really come into play, but it might. You never know. I mean, who knows who owns this crap?
Yeah.
If she were to then try to do something with it, you know, like try to sell it or put it into a book or something.
Yeah. Right, is it right if we move on, Mike?
Yeah, that's all I got. It was just one big long tragedy of freedom of speech and expression this week.
All right, now it's my turn. So, first off, we're going to start off with what everyone, I'm pretty sure everybody already knows, quantitative easing round 3, or as I like to call it, QE forever. Deficit money printing and asset buying by the Federal Reserve. Eternal money grab. That's all they're going to do. $40 billion per month to buy mortgage-backed bonds or stocks. It was bonds. So, in essence, what they're trying to do is create another housing bubble. And we've all seen how that works. Hey, if it doesn't work at first, try again, I guess. Even though it almost freaking crippled our economy to the point where we had to print money to just stagnate it, just to stop it from absolute free fall. So yeah, we're just gonna make the same mistake again, guys, because we are awesome like that. And this is the part that's really getting to me. That's just the mortgage buying. That's just the mortgage bond buying. That's all that they're telling us, the $40 billion. There's a lot more onto that. I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of the audit that the Federal Reserve has gotten lately with $16 trillion to foreign banks. And
yeah.
Where?
And this is the last week that the Senate has before it goes into recess, and they're making a very big push for the audit the Fed bill to get even more information just like that. I mean, there's a lot of money that went to foreign banks, especially the one that I have the biggest problem with, and I know this strikes a chord with Noob here, giving money to Germany so that they can lend more to Greece and all the other southern European countries and get them more into debt.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. The ECB, European Central Bank, I think they have ruled to give another bailout to the bottomless pits that are Greece, Europe, and Spain.
Yeah.
It'll be gone in about 6 weeks or so. Mark my words, it'll be gone.
Yeah, and if you think Occupy looked violent in this country, you should see the protests in Greece with their fire bombs that they throw at their police. They're throwing Molotov cocktails and shit. It's brutal what you can see on YouTube about that.
Greece is crazy.
And I know people may be, labeling me a conspiracy theorist or whatnot, but does everybody here know what the petrodollar world reserve currency is?
Well, I thought right now it was still the U.S. dollar.
It is still.
Yeah.
All right, now, as I'm pretty sure most people know, China has bought tons and tons of gold to start backing its currency because they know we're never going to pay it back. They know for a fact America is going to give the middle finger to China and say, about that money. No. And China's saying, okay, we got to back our stuff up. And they've started selling and buying oil in the yen, the Chinese yen. Now, once people find that the yen is more stable than the U.S. dollar, they're going to go flock to the yen. Once the U.S. dollar loses the petrodollar status, that's the only thing propping it up right now, especially since QE forever has started. Once that's gone, you're going to see the dollar go in an absolute free fall. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but let's just say fall of Rome and the Weaver Republic are looking to be our future.
Do you think that any country nowadays, when they meet that level of critical mass, that they ever truly fall so much as they just kind of become spectators to the new world power? I mean, I would hope that we would at the worst, have something happen like the Great Depression. But what I'm seeing out of Greece right now is, holy shit, firebombing their own police.
That's not that surprising.
What, like, there are hundreds of videos on YouTube of different instances of that. And I just...
Well, the funny thing is, I know a lot about this because my woman was a protester there.
Yes.
And the funny thing is that when I showed her videos of here, we came to the conclusion that the only reason they can do that is lack of technology. That's all. That's the only reason they can do that to their police. Here, they would knock you down with rubber bullets so fast, you wouldn't even know what hit you.
I don't agree. I think the
well, also they would find you with security cameras. They would find some kind of traffic camera that would catch you and identify you, and they'd show up.
They have all that face tracking stuff. You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the unfortunate things. I mean, yes, Americans are getting angry, but I would not say that we are anywhere near outraged. According to a lot of studies, we're at the point of the Great Depression. The only thing that's keeping us from getting to that level of misery is, to be quite honest, the New Deal. It's the social welfare programs that have restrained the American outrage, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But if those weren't existing right now, there's a whole lot of things that would happen. Never mind. But I'm sure you guys heard about, did we hit 46 million people on food stamps now?
I have no idea how many are on food stamps.
I don't know.
We're not about 50 million. Oh, we hit 50 million? Oh, okay. That's wonderful. Absolutely tripping. That's fantastic.
I don't know. I'm thinking that if I remember right.
Fair enough. But yeah, once the world reserve currency status is stripped from the dollar, there's nothing propping it up. It's dead. That's all it is. It's being printed like toilet paper it is. Once it loses that status, there's really no point, because it's not going to have any demand. Globally, it's got barely any demand here. Bad things are on the horizon. I mean, our dollar's devalued. What was gas back in like 60? Wasn't it like 50 cents a gallon, if that?
You can go back to when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I drove a 1978 Cadillac Coupe de Ville with a 7.3 liter V8, and it cost me $20 to fill that car up. And that's 1995.
In 1998, I was getting 99 cents a gallon in Seattle, in that area.
Exactly. Me too. That was my price.
You guys suck. All right, so before I start like throwing my laptop all over the place, I'm gonna keep going with this. Now, a lot of people are going to argue that that's supply and demand. The reason that gas is so high right now is because there's not enough of a supply or there's not enough of a demand, there's not enough of a supply to meet the demand. That's absolute bull crap. We are selling excess surplus. Yeah, it is surplus. We are selling surplus gas and oil we have here to China and Russia. We're selling surplus here.
Well, the oil and gas industry is so embedded and has been here for so long. It's even a matter of gas stations all raising their prices all at the same time all over your city. And I know for a fact that those gas stations are not getting their gas from the same refineries and not getting filled up with their main tanks all on the same day. But all together in your city, all of the gas stations raise their prices to be about the same range that they were, only a little bit higher or lower, all at the same time. Every time.
Price gouging for the win, motherfucker.
It's the dollar being devalued. I mean, from what I understand, pre-QE1, gas is about $1.99, right?
Yeah.
Post QE1, it was about $2.50. Post QE2, it was about $3 to $3.25.
And
good.
Palace, it's not actually price gouging. Gouging happens like right after a hurricane that like just hit New Orleans. The gas stations around there all raise their prices, but nationwide it doesn't happen. It's really price fixing. They're fixing the price all the time, and
Which is illegal, but
well, it's illegal. But where is the enforcement? Because we see it on a national level when we're selling our surpluses off, because those surpluses are gotten rid of just for the purpose of fixing the national price. Just so that a corporation can have a couple more $1 billion added to its already huge windfall profit.
But that's the thing. It's not about supply and demand. It's about the value of the dollar. The dollar is losing value. I mean, we could ask ourselves, why isn't the price dropping back to $1.99 or, hell, $2.25? I haven't seen it drop below $3 in a year. So it's not just that. It's the value of the dollar in and of itself. Because as you said, there are those small gas stations. I don't know if it was you who said that. No, yeah, it was you. We were talking about this. There was a small gas station not owned by big corporations who could potentially do that.
And what I've noticed in the 4-year cycle of presidency before Obama, it was the case that whenever the president was about to go up for re-election with other presidents, the price of gas falls. Even with Clinton, this happened because at that time, the going neocon notion was changing presidents is worse for the economy than just sticking with a liberal one, because they had looked at historical records on this, and they've seemingly decided to not price fix in the favor of Obama, so that he can't in this last 2-month stretch say, yeah, I'm doing good at lowering your gas prices. Because people still seem to think that the president has anything to do with gas. Which
is a joke.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that the Congress and the legislative branch handles the country's finances. Or at least everyone should know that.
Yeah, sure, because truthfully everyone thinks that the president is like the king or something that just rules over everything in the United States.
Well,
So,
Yeah, people do believe that for sure, Alice. I agree.
well, I guess one thing I could be said is the presidential candidates perpetuate this idea. I mean, what did Newt Gingrich say? We're going to have a freaking moon base or something like that. What did he say we're going to do? Whatever.
We need to do more space exploration, put men on the moon again. And
have a moon base.
yeah, of all the different things that he has said, that's the one that I wholeheartedly agree with. And
I think Neil
deGrasse Tyson is with me on this one. That space exploration is such a small part of the national budget, and it generates so much versus defense spending. In fact, it should even be incorporated into. It should maybe be incorporated into defense spending, seeing as it's military pilots that are flying that shuttle. Perhaps we should just consider it part of our defense.
Right.
Coming up with new technology before other countries do should be a defense mindset that we have.
Right. Sorry, I gotta digress back to the original point.
Sorry.
For quantitative, no, you're fine. I think everybody should already know this if they've taken basic economics, but I've met people who don't believe in this and for some ungodly reason think that if you just gave every child who left their parents' house $1 million, everything would be fine for them. So I guess I have to clarify exactly how this works. The more money you printed, the less value it has. I mean, that's common sense, right?
Exactly. Would be common sense.
That would be the way that I would lean. I could envision scenarios where that would not be true, because sometimes the flow of and circulation of money is more important. And if all of the money is locked up in banks that are unwilling to give anyone a loan, and all of our money locks up and isn't being circulated, I can see how printing a little bit more money that would initially devalue the existing currency would actually give more value to our economy and get our economy going and create an effective valuation in the long run. I could make that argument. I just don't see them doing anything as altruistic with the money like I just explained. I see them almost deliberately trying to put our country in the gutter.
Isn't it funny how you see that, yet anyone who calls you, or anyone who you tell that you see that to, calls you a conspiracy theorist? Ain't that funny? Alright, sorry. Okay. Alright,
No, you're very right on that, man. You're absolutely right. And that was a George Bush Jr. technique from years ago that, he said, he came on the news and said, do not believe anybody who tells you any different than me. They're conspiracy theorists. And that really stuck with people, I think.
yeah, well, everyone and their mother's a terrorist nowadays, so whatever works, I guess. Alright.
Yeah.
One of the things I see happening from the fallout of everyone learning from the Occupy movement that the reason why our economy has tanked job-wise since 2008 is the mortgage failure and people making derivatives and paying off the companies that rate those bundled mortgage derivative packages, and that entire system collapsing. And the problem there is people don't trust banks. Banks don't trust people. Banks aren't going to be loaning money to people that can't, that are at the least bit risky. They're not wanting to risk any of their money on any entrepreneurial and venture anywhere. That is horrible for our economy. And I can see how greasing the wheels of our economy by putting some more currency out there might help, but really we need to have some banks that have better ways of judging what a risk really is, because people have exploited the previous systems.
Yeah, there's some debate about how that came about. I mean, some people believe that it was because of the government backed, like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They said, "Don't worry, if you get in trouble, we'll bail you out," and that was also true for many others. But it was the public accounts like Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac. Yeah, let's go with that. So it could have been the fact the government said do it, but that's still debatable. Nobody's completely sure if any backroom deals took place with that. But all in all, that's exactly what the Federal Reserve is trying to do right now with this round of quantitative easing. It's trying to buy mortgage-backed bonds so that they can create another housing bubble and basically do what happened last time.
Yeah.
Except they're hoping it'll work out this time because some reason that I don't understand.
Well, it does make me want to buy some real estate. Problem is finding a bank that will finance the kind of purchases people want to make nowadays that aren't going to gouge you with horrible amounts of interest, thinking, well, within 5 years you're probably going to default on your loan, so while we have you paying, we want you paying as much as fucking possible. You start a savings account nowadays and you see 0.001% interest, right? because they can't pay a lot of interest because they're not making a lot of money off of the interest that they're getting back. They have so many defaults, and the banks are not making the money in order to pay the people who are investing and putting their money in savings. When I first started my savings account when I was 16 years old, which was about 18 years ago, I was getting 2% return in a savings account. You can't even get 2% return nowadays in a CD, in a certificate of deposit, where you lock your money up for 6 months, where you used to be able to get near 10% return on that. You can't even get 2 nowadays. It's like 1.5 at best with the best banks. That is a shitty economy for the consumer, for the layperson like we are, and somehow banks have a way of making money whether it's a shitty economy or not, but that's not serving us. You know.
I had a thought about the housing market and stuff, because I had the advantage of being able to buy my house in cash, which was, believe me, it was a piece of shit. It was like $48,000, but me and my dad bought it, and it was completely wrecked. But what I'm saying is, I was thinking about it, and what happened in the 50s, like everybody used to live together, kind of like Europe. Like everybody, there's very little urban sprawl. And in the 50s, they really pushed it, that everybody wanted to move out into the country and stuff like that, which is really expensive. It's expensive to live out there. It really is. I think maybe eventually we'll see, now that we're hurting so bad from this, that we will see people that are in the suburbs start to move back to the city, because the property, that's where I was getting to, the properties there, I mean, you can go down to Philadelphia, and not in too bad of an area. You have to have a little ball, because there's been a lot of people down there that have changed neighborhoods that you wouldn't want to go into 10 years ago, and now they're some of the most expensive properties in Philadelphia. And they went in there and bought those houses for about $13,000 a piece, because nobody wanted them. I think we're going to start to see more of that, and I think that really could help us, like, a lot, if we got over this urban sprawl stuff. I don't know.
Alright. Sorry, we're kind of hitting that 10-minute mark, and I was hoping to get 2 things left to say in, and one more pertinent to... Crap, what was it? Oh yeah, one more story. So I'm pretty sure everybody here knows about the Armada that's heading over to Strait of Hormuz for quote-unquote war games. It's basically the next coalition.
Yeah.
So, I mean, war with Iran is a foregone conclusion. Everyone can sit here and, no, don't go to war with Iran, we don't have the supplies, we don't have the troops, blah, blah, blah. It's going to happen. I know it, the president knows it, everyone with half a brain cell knows it. It's going to happen. It's not going to be good for us, it's not going to be good for the economy, it's not going to be good for the troops, but it's going to happen. It's inevitable. This consortium, the Armada, which supposedly is war games, that's the basic invasion force. At least that's where I'm putting my bets on. Now, China and Russia have both stated publicly, don't mess with Iran or Syria. Don't do it. They have stated that they will defend militarily, if needed, to protect Iran and Syria should they be attacked. They said this to Israel, they said this to the U.S. In essence, this attack on Iran could lead to World War III. Anyone's thoughts on that?
After, this entire year I've seen protesters here in America have that same idea that war with Iran is a foregone conclusion, that they're next. And I've seen protesters with signs saying, no war in Iran, and this was before I even saw, any of the wheels turning in that direction. And it's only been recently that I have been seeing those wheels turn in that direction. And I don't know, after the Innocence of Muslims movie, I was actually putting Libya next on the U.S. agenda.
Oh, dude, we've been in Libya. We just, oh no, that's Syria. We support the quote-unquote Syrian rebels, as the MSM went to call Al-Qaeda there, but it's Al-Qaeda. We just call them the Syrian rebels. And we give them support as the United States. Ironic.
I would think that, to me, that, like you're saying with the World War III stuff with Iran, or Iran, however you know pronounce. I was thinking that, to me, the way I look at it is, I doubt they'll be very, probably no ground stuff at all. I think they want to put us back into a Cold War like we had with Russia, which made us tons of money. It really did.
Well,
I think that's what it'll be. It'll be one of those fake stalemate things that we just sit there for 10 years with them and don't do anything, but still we're technically a state of war. It's just so these goddamn military contractors can make more money. That's all. That's all it's ever about. It's all money.
I actually see a different scenario whereby the U.S. would go in, do all the damage with an airstrike and completely overturn that country's government, and then not take control of the government afterward, and let a coalition of China and Russia. If a coalition of China and Russia did that,
but why would they leave the troops out then? If that was their plan, wouldn't they leave them there? See, that's what led me to believe this.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be easier just to leave them there?
I'm saying that they would raise the country and then let China and Russia take it over and deal with the aftermath, because their oil interests in that would keep them away from oil interests with other countries that we might be working with in the future, like as soon as Chavez is not president of Venezuela anymore. We might be wanting a more direct oil pipeline and not have our oil come in barges all the way from the Middle East, when we can let them have that oil and we can go for Venezuela. It might be give them a large thing of oil so that they're not buying Venezuelan oil anymore, and so that we can get that oil. Just increasing the oil supply for everyone and making a very complacent OPEC member out of Iran.
I don't see that happening, but I mean, there's already an answer for that by me, but I'm not going to go into it too much. But my main concern with all this is the war on terror has brought us the Indefinite Detention Clause, the Patriot Act, all of that great stuff. What is possible World War III going to bring to America? What other unconstitutional legislation is going to be passed to threat of war with China and Russia? Iran, Iraq, all that great stuff. Fine. They're little countries over there. They got nothing. We're afraid they're going to get nukes. We're just afraid they're going to get nukes. That's what terrifies us. China and Russia do have nukes. What kind of legislation would the American people experience from that fact? What would they do if the government told them, we might get nuked, we need you to comply and do this, this, and this? I mean, if Iran and Iraq and Al-Qaeda brought us indefinite detention, what could these guys do to us?
They could actually solidify it, because just like the NDAA had that habeas corpus removing line in it, and then that was challenged in court just this past week, they've been trying to insert that back into the language again. So they keep on trying to take away our liberties, and they could actually succeed with another war like that, and they have in the past. That we've had all sorts of a bloody history of concentration camps within our own country for say the Japanese, you know?
Yeah, and I think we had some German. Did we have Germans, or was it pretty much just Japanese? I don't recall any German. Nothing stuck out for me as German concentration camps go, but the Japanese.
Yeah, you're right. It's most Japanese because the Japanese lived here, already, and they were ethnic. Germans lived here too, but they looked like everybody else. They're white people, so it was easy to hide, I guess. But I think from George Takei, from what I know because he's talked about it so many times on Howard Stern show, that he says it was just a racial thing. Just because they looked like the enemy, that's it. And it's funny too, because I think there was a Japanese regiment in World War II that is the highest decorated of all.
And that's my exact point. I mean, what's going to happen? Are we going to imprison all Chinese Americans, all Russian Americans?
Right. Yeah.
Are we going to give special treatment to British and our allied Americans? I mean, I can see a whole lot of stuff going south real quick if we've lost so much just from a little terrorist organization. What if the two major powerhouses, and people can sit there and degrade Russia all they want. Oh, they're a third world country, blah blah blah. Bitch, they got nukes. We're afraid of Iran getting nukes. We're scrambling Iran getting nukes. Mm-hmm. Russia does have them. I can't imagine why anybody would be so afraid of Iran getting nukes, then brush off Russia, who does have nukes. That's stupid to me. But I've seen it, so I am my rant.
I've actually today had a thought about manifest destiny and how, no country's borders stay the same forever. But in today's world, we have a very unique system of living here in America, our unique system of capitalism. And if we were to take over a country like, say, Canada, there's a very large change that would have to happen to both countries in order for that to happen. And I, for one, am in favor of something like a single-payer system with universal health care. But there are many people in the U.S. who are not in favor of anything like that. But
that'd be me.
Yeah, and in order to take over a country where that kind of a system was already in place, one of those systems has to change, and those people who are trying to affect that change here in America might actually use that kind of a war to, unify both things. If we were to ever take over a place and not just stick a military base there and call them their own country. If we were to actually take over their land and annex it, we would have a very big problem, because we'd have to find some way to move their people into our culture, which, once you're in a socialized place like that, it'd be pretty hard to live in a capitalistic society. And I would think that any sort of land grabbing on a large scale would actually result in large-scale social change as well, because they would shoehorn it in.
Very much so. I think we're hitting the hour mark, Mike. Or
yes, we are, and the only
get an hour.
Yeah, we're gonna try to keep them shorter, but I will say that on an upcoming show on October 3rd. I think we're going to actually watch presidential debates and mock them while we are watching. I have that planned in the future.
We just got a comment. Such a sophisticated conversation tonight. I apologize.
I'm sorry, Seaside. It was a little sophisticated.
But actually, I have a question for everyone tonight. Just to and just kind of my last question, end the show thing, whatever. If all of the farmers in the world, now they own the property, they own it, they paid for it, it's theirs. If all the farmers in the world suddenly just stop growing food, no food at all, but you can't tell somebody else to go and farm it because it's their property, would any of you force them to farm by telling the government to make them do it by any means?
Tough one. Their land, they can do what they want with it. I'll put that one.
Alright.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It is their land.
I don't see I don't see a shortage of land in order to farm it, and I see in America, you know, when one person sees such a huge demand for their food, you know, we have sellouts, and I see a lot of people jumping ship to the other side, you know, just to make that buck, because this is America.
The hypothetical, the whole point of the hypothetical is, would you use government force, violence, to make somebody grow food for you?
If it were a matter of national security, if it got that bad, I would not want somebody to be driven as a slave in order to make my food. But I might
be essentially what it is.
Yeah, I might be in favor more of an eminent domain law by which a farmer could be relieved of his land if he wasn't using it for the greater good, and the government putting that land up for an auction and giving the previous owner the money, and then letting the new farmer come in and make the food. I would probably, you know, I would never want someone to be driven as a slave, but eminent domain, I've seen it used for the greater good, and that's where I might buckle as far as liberty is concerned.
What are your thoughts on, say, like you're saying, if it comes down to that, and it's really at that dire situation, where, you know, where you're talking eminent domain and stuff, where does FEMA fall into that? Because it could be possible, but they're just complete, you know, over government power. If something bad happens, that they could just take those farms and do what they want with them, really.
Which is exactly what I think would happen in a situation like that.
Which is why I'm already thinking ahead and thinking that if the land is seized and then put up for auction, the original landowner should get the proceeds at least. You know, his liberty and his property being taken away from him should be the least amount of pain that we inflict on that person who owns the property. I really do believe that we should try to respect their property rights as much as we can. But I imagine in this scenario, if the food isn't made, we're going to have war. And if the situation is that dire, then we would have to find some way to get that food made. And still try to be as equitable as possible to the original owner.
Fair enough. This is just an opinion thing, no, you know, argument or anything. Just seeing what everyone thought. Alright, do we want to end it there, or did anyone else want to say anything?
Thanks, Prince Noob Sauce and Palace 486 for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, man. I would have been here earlier. I was talking to Headless for a little bit, though.
You're good.
Yeah, same here. Thanks for having me on.
All right.
No problem. You guys have a good night.
End of show.